So, hello, by the way. It's all well and good talking about stories, anecdotes, examples from all areas of life in a generic manner to help give resonance, relatability, and make you think, yeah, that sort of applies to me. But some of the most powerful examples we can have is stories. We see them everywhere. TV, films, from people in our lives. And in the self-development industry, you'll see a lot of people sharing their own personal stories about where they were, where they got to, where they are now, what they've learnt, what they can help with. Again, to give that kind of human experience or side to their story, and also show the idea that you can make the changes that you want to from wherever you feel you are. So do you know what? I thought, let me give this a go. I took inspiration from my own coach who did the same. If you check out his YouTube channel, he's got his, what he calls his origin story on there, which I think is a cool analogy because look, all these superhero films and franchises and stuff at some point will either have a whole film dedicated to the origin of the character, or there's a part of the film that goes on to show where did the character come from, their roots, all that kind of thing. So my story here that I'm going to share with you in a few parts is in essence a practical case study of many of the things that I learned in my time with my coach and beyond, and identifying along the way where those beliefs and emotions that I experienced had come from, many of which may resonate with you. I give specific attention to my time in investment banking, which is an industry known for its glamorous kind of fast-paced side of things. You'll have seen it in the likes of the Wolf of Wall Street film and the Industry series. But it's also known for burning people out at a fairly alarming rate. And you'll also hear more about my own coaching journey, which is where I began to find even a new path forward for myself. Now, some of you might hear parts of it and go, nah, not for me, which is cool, to each their own. And some of you might go, oh, fuck yeah, this is what I'm experiencing right now, and this is how I saw it too, or see it too. If so, that's cool. If you want to change things, then that's what I'm here to help with. There's many a link that you can go and check out my content and work at, not least my website, innerpeacewalker.com, which is a great starting point for you to check out more content and get in contact with me if you want to get involved in this kind of work. Now, I'm also aware that you may have come from a similar background or had an experience similar to me, especially in my career and former industry, i.e. been in similar situations. That's fine. I'm not here to denigrate anyone's experiences or say that mine was worse than others or that what I experienced was the typical thing. It's more just me sharing my story, what actually happened, and essentially showing possibilities beyond what you might think, because the possibilities are always there. So if you're sitting comfortably, or if you're not, then I will begin. So I guess where better to start than a little bit about my childhood and growing up. So essentially from as far back as I can remember in school, I was always teacher's pet, you know, the good boy in class who just listened to the teacher, did his work, seemed to get on all right with the work, wanted to do it to a high standard. I had a natural affliction towards sports like cricket in terms of playing, and later on in school years also a bit of football as well. Primary school was a really happy time, as I guess most primary school kids' times are, right? It's just the real freedom of just playing and enjoying, but I happened to be in a class and year that I guess were really together. You know, I still keep in touch with a couple of people from that time today. The moving to secondary school was a bit of an eye-opener, especially in the early years between years 7 and 9. So for those of you not in the UK, this is essentially your early high school years, basically. It's where I met one of my closest friends again over a blue-coloured pencil, which essentially was us not knowing each other. You know, when you go to secondary school, you're in that boat of trying to make new friends. This is me just in class one day, not knowing he was in my form class, just asking him to borrow a blue-coloured pencil. He said yes. and that's it. We became really close friends, even to this day. But I also had a sense with all that going on of suddenly not fitting in as well. I was still alright in terms of academic abilities, but I guess I was in a bigger pool of people that were at similar levels and maybe even higher levels. But it essentially felt a bit like I was out of my comfort zone, because not only was there the academic pressures, but there was the social thing as well, right? Trying to make friends in a new place, and all that kind of thing. And it was a relative struggle for me to keep up. I did okay, but definitely looking back, it feels like there were times that maybe I went into my shell a bit, or was a little bit more inhibited, and that's maybe where my introversion came from. So it felt kind of, as went into year 9, so just before GCSE started, that I was at a kind of a crossroads with what was going on. But I got to say, GCSEs just kind of reignited me. All of a sudden, I think there was a range of changes that went through of like, okay, this, kind of stepping up now in terms of importance, like, important sets of exams coming up, but also the environment change in terms of like teachers, and pretty much the same batch, but new ones here and there. Even teachers seem to tune in to, right, this is now the serious stuff. But I just remember having a real good set of teachers this time. And not that they were terrible beforehand, but, in those early years, it was like, right, there's some good teachers, but there's some couple of real pieces of work, really. But, GCSEs were at a time where not only were the teachers a good mix, but, again, just seemed to get back in touch really strongly with all the subjects. Whilst I was doing really well in subjects before, now it's like, right, I seem to hone in on all subjects at an even higher level now. Like, foreign languages like German. I had a real passion for history all throughout my times anyway, but even that, went on and on. Same thing with English. I've always been a fan of English language and English literature, and was able to really excel at those. And, when I think back to those times, it was like, right, it was the first sense of, okay, opening possibilities. I was academic really well. I felt, okay, those sort of societal school pressures, if you will, were beginning to ease. I was finding my feet a little bit more. And it just ended with a really, that's when I guess that joy started again, of all the early doubts of those early years had been replaced now with, okay, there's real momentum going on here, and I had a flying set of results, if I may say so. But then when I hit A levels, it went to another level. So, honing in what I enjoyed doing in terms of work, but also the freedom that comes with being a sixth former, being able to, wear your own clothes rather than uniform, and having free periods. I still remark with my friends of like, everybody else in this school is in a classroom whilst we're, dossing around in the sixth form common room, or just outside playing football. And it's like, this is so much fun. It's dead simple back then. There's no phones, no, the internet really hadn't kicked off yet. It was just simple enjoyment. Even remember now, like when we'd be playing football in the playground, and it was a free period, and then the bell went for next lesson, and we were all meant to go. We got 5 more minutes, or next goal wins, until it crept into like 10 minutes into lesson, 15 minutes. And then the teacher would come looking for us because she'd know where we'd be, and we'd all try and leg it to the classroom to not get caught. But yeah, as I said, such simple and fun times. And as I said, aside from the academics, a different level of social dynamics came into it. Developing relationships of a close nature, and it just felt that everybody again was on this cusp of a big change, right? Obviously the next step for many of us was university, and just going through that time of like, okay, what's everyone going to be up to, where are we going, what subjects are people going to be doing, are we all going to meet back with each other? and it, again, it was such a joyful time. And you know, when we came towards the end of our times together, you know, we had the prom, you know, that was all kicking off. I think formally in the UK, where, you know, we're taking on the American style proms, and that was such a great fun time. And it was, as I said, like a really enjoyable, successful time. So moving on to university, I went to Nottingham to do economics, and it was a brilliant place and time. You know, the city and the university was in a real, you know, thriving period. You know, it was hitting a lot of top ranking, hitting a lot of top rankings in like university, you know, what they call them, league tables, that kind of thing. And it just felt like a natural fit. I hadn't done the subject at previous levels. I hadn't done it at A level, but it felt like this might be a subject that I could enjoy and also have some prospects when I finished. Uni life were for me, well, I just kind of kept myself to myself a little bit. You know, I know university is meant to be the place where you know, your sort of social life explodes, and yes, there were loads of opportunities for sure. And you know, I wasn't completely on my own, but as I said, I think that natural introversion of mine just meant I kept myself to myself. But along the way, I made some really great close friends, and you know, I see one of them now. I go up every year to Nottingham to catch up with the place and catch up with a really dear friend of mine. Again, really enjoyed my time thoroughly. Really got into the degree, enjoyed it, and it was around the same time that I started to learn the guitar. Honestly, just watching my favorite bands like Oasis, the Beatles, Queen, who were all projecting the message of like, well, if we can do it, to be honest, anyone can. So at the time, I just went and got a guitar, a cheap thing from Argos with all the little bits and kit together. It was just a basic, I think even not even a full size, the 3/4 nylon thing, nylon string thing, I should say. And again, this is before YouTube and Google had you know, been established, so resources were thin. So I literally just Googled, you know, what are chords, how do you read guitar chord music, what is the parts of guitar, how do you tune it, all those things, and just began to make my way through being able to play chords and stuff like that. And I just happened to be around my friends one day who said, you know, I mentioned to them I'm learning guitar, and then one of my friends sort of peered around, you know, the group whilst we were chatting to each other, and he sort of went, right, he can play anything, he can sing, he can learn whatever, he can play this, I can play, you're playing, why don't we all just form a band together? And we did. So we made a little band together called Justice, and we recorded a little mini album of self-penned 6 songs in the space of like 6 weeks. Did a gig to about 20 of our friends slash hecklers, but again, so much fun. Like one of the most happiest and joyful fun times that I can remember. And unfortunately, we didn't get to go on because obviously we all had to go back to uni, you know, in separate places. But as I said, so much time and fun to be had. And so my second year of uni was the year of 2005, and that was the first year of my life that I felt a real fulfillment and satisfaction, because it seemed like every thread in life seemed to be being nailed, essentially. Like, you know, I was nailing my studies, I was doing really well at my degree, I was really enjoying my degree. I managed to get an internship at the FSA at Canary Wharf. By no means a dream thing, but it's like, you know, okay, I'm in the summer, I'm going to be able to, you know, earn my first keep, if you will, get some experience, because, you know, set myself up for what was going to happen at the end of my degree in terms of my next step. And in, you know, sport wise, Liverpool won the Champions League, Istanbul, goes without saying. England in the cricket won the Ashes for the first time in my lifetime. And again, the sheer run of joy in that period, especially the summertime, where, you know, it was like May, June, where my exams went really well. Liverpool won in May, and I still remember the day to a T. And and then England winning the Ashes in around September, and my internship in the same summer. That real run just made me hark back to 1996, where, yes, I was only 11 years old, but it felt like we were the greatest sort of country to be in, because like that mix of music, sport, and I guess politics as well, just all combined to think, shit, wow, there's real hope going on here, right? And I remember that in the grad ball that we had at the end of my last year at uni, it was just before the 2006 World Cup in the summer, and so many of us evoked that same kind of hope for the future. We're like, okay, it's a bit sad that our time together is ending, but we've got so much to look forward to, even though that realization of like, crap, we're coming out of uni into the real, hard, tough world. But we were young, we were full of hope, and the World Cup was coming, so what could be more fun than that? And a change that maybe not many of us saw coming at the time, but when I left uni in 2006, Facebook had literally just been launched, and I remember it was only open in the UK to like the top, I think, 8 universities or something, which Nottingham was a part of, and everybody seemed to jump on it straight away. So, as I said, not without any forebearing what was going to happen in the future. That happened at the time. So that was my childhood up to leaving university in a nutshell.